So yes, I am going to talk about sex. Yes, sex fines for landlords. You've heard of all sorts of things about offers by landlords for sex in exchange for rent. We all know that's illegal. This is legal sex fines. When I say sex fines, I mean severe, extremely expensive fines. Fines that none of us would like to have. And these are fines that are imposed by the local councils. The local councils have had the opportunity to give us fines for parking tickets. You'll know those as fixed penalty notices. Yeah? And then they got some control and working with the police, and then they took on the speeding fines. And now, ka-ching, it's the landlord fines. But the most impressive thing about it is we're not talking silly little numbers like it's £100 reduced to 60. We're talking big numbers. I mean £25,000 reduced to 20,000. It's amazing. So let me talk about how those fines are around and what they are doing currently. So the landscape is generally fines are starting at £5,000 per offence. But we are seeing, for minor offences, people putting 2,000, 5,000, 15,000, 20,000, and as much as 30. Their power is very, very simple. £30,000. Yes, £2,500 a month. That's more than the average salary by some. And it's real. As you can see here, Somerset Council is looking to do more. As you can see here, more and more landlords are finding that they're doing things inadvertently that are getting them in trouble. Because a lot of us are ill-educated, uninterested, or, for some, sick and tired of the attacks by our government. If it's not legislation, if it's not new rules, if it's not the bins are right, the bins are wrong, it's taxation. It's beginning to become a bind. As a good friend of mine said nearly 20 years ago, they will tax the driver off the road. I'm thinking they're trying to tax the landlord out of the business. And why? Well, I'm not going to get political here. That'd be like talking about Brexit, and we won't go there. But as you're seeing, more and more landlords receiving penalties, receiving fines, being called rogue landlords. Some of these people, I'm sorry to tell you, are very good landlords like you and me. They follow most of the rules most of the time, and they're trying to keep up with everything. But it's like when you're driving in the car and you decide you're a little bit hungry and you grab that apple that's sitting in the centre console just at the moment the policeman's looking at you and he pulls you over, and now you've got driving without due care and attention and 3 points. It is very unfair. Yeah? Yet they're in their cars using their radios all the time and looking at cameras and everything else in their cars. They don't get done because they're the police. Well, it's exactly the same with the council. But as we know, for some people, when given power, it seems to go to their head. And sometimes they will work and do whatever they have to do and get convictions at any cost. Be that destroying your life, be destroying your business, or be destroying the future inheritance of your children and your grandchildren. I know. Yesterday, I sat with a landlord, and as the tears came to his eyes, when he realised that the dream that he had of maybe in 200 years' time, some young kid going to a university paid for, as he said, by some old git who did something back in the 2000s. I know it may seem crazy, but this is just destroying that's going on because of little things. Little things they can get £5,000 for, £20,000 for, £15,000. So in the last 10 years, there have been 150 new laws passed in housing. That's along with 400, yes, 400 pieces of regulation in the last 10 years. Think about that. In 10 years, in 520 weeks, we've had 400 pieces of legislation. take out the 40 weeks of holidays that people would have had in those years. From 520 take away 40, that's 480. And a little bit of margin. Is this all they do all day long? Think up things to do to landlords? Is this some sort of conspiracy? Well, that's not. We can think it's a conspiracy. We can think it's political. But I'm sure, as all of these things, they're done in the interests of the people. Okay? But the key thing here to remember is the council, they have the power to police, be the judge and the jury. And they can issue civil penalty fines without reference to anyone else up to £30,000. That's £2,500 a month. £2,500 a month, if you didn't hear that clearly. Who is going to finance that? You couldn't put the rents up to cover it. This will put many people out of business. And what is it they're fining them for? Simple things. You may have put in smoke detectors. You may have put in heat alarms. You might have even put in fire doors. But if they're not in correctly, something goes wrong, they're not operating at the time they come, if they don't get fixed, etc., then they will impose these fines. It could be anything. It could be damp and mould in the property. It's whether they see it's a category 1 or a category 2 hazard. And what are they fining for exactly? Well, let's get specific. Just take a look at what you see there on the screen. A blown bulb. A blown bulb. £5,000. An item left on the landing by a tenant, i.e. a small bedside chest of drawers. £5,000. The garden. Most people don't realise if the garden overgrows because your gardener doesn't come, they'll issue you a fine because it's not been done, or a fence panel missing. Did you know that? Were you aware? It is so important to know. This particular landlord in the West Midlands has a massive portfolio. This is not somebody who's inexperienced. This is somebody who was known to the council. They were friends. Now I'm going to tell you very, very clearly how he described it to us. It was as if those people that worked at the council, it was as if he'd killed their brother or sister, the way they spoke to him and treated him. They went from first name basis to stern, rude, Mr. basis. It was as if they'd never met before, and this was the murderer accused. Seriously, do not ignore this. Now you might say, well, why does this apply to me? This isn't just happening with houses in multiple occupation. It is happening with houses that are normal buy-to-let rental. More and more councils are introducing things. So if you don't think you have an HMO, well, you probably do. Well, you will probably have one soon, because here's why. Very, very simple. Any property with 3 or more people, where 2 of those people are not related out of the 3, it forms an HMO. Legally, it is a house in multiple occupation. And it is an offence, and it has been for the last 13 years under the HMO management regulations of 2006 for you to comply. So you must comply. And if you don't, I'm sorry, the consequences are yours. Yeah? Whatever happens, it will be your fault. Mea culpa, as they say in Latin. For some of you who already understood what mea culpa meant because you studied Latin at school, you will clearly be those landlords that may be of most at risk, because so much has changed in the last 10 years and you probably only thought there was a fraction of that number. So how do you protect yourself? Well, you've got to assume that your tenants or your agents are going to turn your property into an HMO, because they do, and they do it regularly, because they let to some sharers, and in their mind, if it's less than 5, they don't have to do anything special. I'm afraid they are dearly wrong, and they will pay dearly, as will you. You've got to have protection. Protection. As you would tell a teenager, use protection. Why? Because you'll have something unwanted you didn't need. So get compliant. Know the HMO regulations. Understand the Housing Health and Safety Rating System, and understand LACORS. These pages run into the hundreds, and there's lots of contradiction, there's lots of guidelines and ambiguity. I wish you luck working it all out. But it is basic health and safety, so be prepared. Now when I say be prepared, I mean we need to be prepared. A Winston Churchill be prepared. We will fight them wherever, but we will not give in. You've got to be ready to fight the councils on nonsense. Yes, I said nonsense. It's a legal term. Learn it. It means no sense. It makes no sense. The councils have aspirational requirements. And when I say aspirational, that means they have no basis in law. How do you know the difference? Because you will be pressured to believe them, pressured to pay, and they are legal nonsenses. They'll call bedsits that aren't bedsits. They can't even define bedsits. What they call bedsits and what the judges call bedsits are nothing in comparison to what people live as today. There'll be excessive fire alarm requirements. They'll be asking you to put an alarm system in that, quite frankly, as my brother-in-law would say, would be powerful enough to power Terminal 5's fire requirements. This is a simple domestic house most of the time. Don't do more than you need to. You expose yourself to more problems. You put up a sign and you do it incorrectly or misplace it, then you leave yourself open. It would be better not to have the sign at all. They will prosecute you for anything they can. You need to take precautions. Our advice is go and get third-party audits done. Third-party health and safety audits. Why? Because it will give you evidence and it will give you a schedule of works that you know what you need to do. You'll have confirmation that you can present to the council. Because you can rely on doing it yourself, but they may not accept it. They're more likely to accept a third-party opinion. We see this in so many areas today, in planning, in licensing and everything else. You see it in the medical profession too. And do apply for a license. If you're not sure, find out. Happy to answer the questions for you at the end about that if you need to license. I won't go into that right now because that could take a whole day. But do it all before the council becomes aware of you and your properties, because once they become aware, they're going to keep looking until they can find something. Yeah? But what if you do get one of these fines? What if you get a court summons? What if you have to go to the tribunal because they disagree with your representations? What if you get an improvement notice? Who would you call? You're going to need to call a council buster. You're going to need somebody who knows how to defend you as a landlord. Those that know and understand compliance and the licensing specialists. And they need to be backed up with chartered environmental health officers, solicitors and barristers on their team who can take this all the way to win for you. We wish you luck. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We'll be around for about 20 minutes to discuss further with you. But please take this seriously. This is serious.